Well, hello YouTube, Steve Patton with General Patton Bushcraft, back with you friends. I'm back out in the backyard and I'm super excited to bring you the show notes for episode 1 of season 12 of Alone. They're out in the Great Karoo Desert, excuse me, in South Africa. Stay tuned for the show notes of episode 1. Okay friends, you know every Alone show starts out with a quote from a famous person, and on season 12 episode 1 titled The Land of Great Thirst, they open up with a quote from Rosalia de Castro, and it's quote, "I see my path, but I don't know where it leads. Not knowing where I'm going is what inspires me to travel it." Unquote. That's by Rosalia de Castro. Okay friends, the show starts out with helicopter rides for all individuals to their individual location. And remember, the participants, and they fly out in this order per chopper. Pablo from Florida, USA. Then they show Nathan from Idaho, USA. Then Katie from Emerald Beach, Australia. Jeet from Anakiwa, New Zealand. Colton from Montana, USA. Doug, that's D-U-G, from New Hampshire, USA. And then Douglas from North Carolina, USA. Baja from Ontario, Canada. Kelsey from Montana, USA. So we got 2 people from Montana. And then last we have Will taking that chopper ride to the individual location, and he's from Texas, USA. We got 2 women and 8 men. All right, friends, day 1, 9:43 a.m., and they start off with Will. We see his spot. It's right on the lake, high up on a flat, rocky spot. It's a kind of a cliff down to the water, and Will tries to calm down. He says he doesn't have any drop shock, and Will is an exotic trapper. Catch, house, and transport exotic animals back home in Texas is what he does for a living. Says he is a primitive enthusiast. He shows us the lake, and the lake, friends, is green and muddy. Doesn't look good. It looks to me like they're really gonna have to process this water to keep from getting sick. So right away he starts processing some water, and we see him cover a pot with his bandana, fills it up, and then goes and boils it. They're worried about cholera, E. coli, and salmonella. The current temperature is 77 degrees. Will builds a tripod over a fire in the sand. He found some dead sticks. He shows us cactus, shrubs, look very dry and a lot like the Arizona desert, friends. All right, friends, this terrain looks a lot like my hometown. Looks, the water's murky, muddy, green. We got shrubs, and small trees, and cactus everywhere. It's 10:26 in the morning now, and they show us Kelsey. She's 35 years old from Montana, USA, and looks like a green, muddy river canyon is where she is located. Lots of rocks, and it opens up into plains, and across the ridge, across the river, down in this gorge, up high up on the other rocky hilltop, she sees a whole bunch of baboons, friends. She names her camera Karen, and her spot is a river canyon. Plants, shrubs, small trees are green. She hears some distant screaming, and these baboons, they're already unhappy that she's there, friends. A bunch of baboons up on a high rocky ridge. And these baboons are powerful fighters with large teeth. She yells at them, "This is my spot, get!" But the baboons, they just shine her on, they don't move. These baboons are raiders and will raid the camp, friends. Already baboons everywhere. All right, friends, still day one, 11:14 in the morning, and we get to see Pablo. He's 55 years old, from Florida, USA. It's 77 degrees, and his location is right in front of the lake. Gets dropped off on this flat, somewhat kind of a muddy, sandy beach, I would say. And all participants were advised to make walking sticks to poke around the rocks for venomous snakes. Friends, there's nearly 20 different varieties of snakes in this South African location of the Great Karoo Desert. And he mounts his GoPro to his walking stick and does a little bit of exploring. Friends, you got to keep in mind, we got black mambas and puff adders out here in this territory. He finds some old buffalo scat from the Cape Buffalo, and these Cape Buffalo get up to 2,000 pounds and 11 feet long, friend. He shows us the lake, and of course it's nasty and green. He goes down to the water's edge, takes his short-handled shovel, friends, and he makes a coyote well. And you know what that is? That's where off the water's edge, maybe 4 or 5 feet, you dig a hole and let the water from the lake seep up into the hole, and it's supposed to filter the water out a bit. All right, friends, it's still day 41. Everything's going to be pretty much day 41, day 1, 2, and 3 in episode 1, but it's 1:44 p.m. now, and we get to see Jeet. That's J-I-T. He's 35 years old, from Anakiwa, New Zealand, and he's a tall, slender fellow, friends. No fat whatsoever on this gentleman, and he gets dropped off on a little valley with a gully running through it, not too far from the lake. He finds some prickly pear cactus as he's walking around checking things out. It's rocky, grassy, with shrubs. And he also sees a bunch of baboons up on a rocky hill. Now, friends, these baboons can reach up to 30 miles an hour. These guys can really run. Jeet tries to fish a bit. No luck, friends. It's super rocky. He loses a hook, gets a hook caught on a rock out in the water. So he strips down, wades out there, and retrieves the hook. So good on him. He can't tell the depth, but it looks to be pretty flat and shallow, friends, his location. He decides to boil water and try the prickly pear cactus, friends. Now, these prickly pears are full of magnesium, calcium, and potassium, and sodium. He cooks a little bit of that prickly pear cactus on his shovel and scrapes off the thorns, friends, and eats a little bit. Says it's kind of nice to have something to eat. All right, friends, still day 1, 5:12 p.m. now. The show goes back over to Pablo. We see him build a rock fire ring, and he gets his temporary shelter set up. He folds his tarp in half, so half of it is his cover, and the bottom half is somewhat of a floor. Makes a small lean-to with the tarp, has a floor, and we got scorpions all over the place out here, so he wants to have a little bit of a floor in his shelter. We see the show go over to Jeet real quick and show us his temporary shelter. It's a ridge line with his tarp. He just puts up a ridge line and puts it his tarp over the ridge line, just a simple ridge line tarp setup. And Jeet's ready for the night. We get to see Katie, 45 years old, from Emerald Beach, Australia, and she's drinking water already, and her location is on a flat beach of the lake. She's looking out at the water. She sees a fish jump out there. And the show goes over to Kelsey. She's back there talking to Karen, her camera, her GoPro, and she tells Karen, look at the moon come up. Okay, friends, it's 8:02 p.m. now. It's totally dark. We see Pablo, that's the 55-year-old from Florida, USA. He's trying to go to sleep, but there's tons of noises. Animals, birds, baboons screeching. Hard for him to go to sleep. He says he's going to have to get used to it. And the show goes back over to the 34-year-old from Texas. That's Will. He just woke up and stokes the fire a bit. He's woken up by all the noises. Friends, it's 11:02 at night now, 11:02 p.m., and the show goes back over to Katie. Katie just caught an Orange River mudfish. First night in, she has a fish, big, nice, pretty big fish, friends. She cleans it, cooks it, and eats it. And the next morning, we see Katie out there harvesting some acacia seeds. She wants to have acacia seeds with fish soup. So good on Katie. She's settled it in nicely to the new terrain, new surroundings, and new food. Protein and fiber, friends, from those acacia seeds. Katie's an Aussie, so she is used to the arid environments. While harvesting those acacia seeds, friends, she smells an animal. Whoo, she gets like a strong whiff of some animal urine. She gets up, grabs her bow and arrow, and friends, she sees a warthog. She tries to pursue the warthog, but the warthog gets spooked and runs up the hillside. So she decides to turn back and go back to collecting acacia berries. She doesn't want to pursue them too hard, too early. Pretty smart on Katie. All right, friends, day 2 now, 9:01 in the morning, and back over to Will, the Texan, and he sees a bunch of baboons up on the hilltop. He grabs his bow and arrow and decides to climb the hillside up to the top, the rocky top where these baboons are. And he gets up on top, friends. He sees 2 Cape buffalo, Black Death, friends, and he sees a big kudu bull. These are a bull type animal with long curvy horns. These kudu can get 5 feet at the shoulder and about 700 pounds. The kudu sees him and spooks and runs off, but he says, hey, this is going to be a good hunting spot for Will, the 34-year-old from Texas. All right, friends, 9:49 in the morning, the show goes back over to Pablo. Pablo goes down to the water's edge and checks out that coyote well that he dug yesterday with that short-handled shovel. And that coyote well is totally underwater. A total waste of time, friends. He dug it too close to the water's edge. So he goes back to plan B. He's super thirsty by this time, so he uses his bandana and covers his pot, fills it up. Back to camp, boils the water, and we see him sipping on some hot water, friends. All right, friends, it's 10:32 in the morning now, and the show goes back over to Kelsey. Kelsey wakes up and says, I survived the first night. And she does her morning push-up ritual. She knocks her push-ups out, and she grabs her bow, and she's going on a walkabout. She tells us that she has a 50-pound bow and is very confident, up to 30 yards. She goes out hunting. She sees a water buck on the opposite ridge after hiking to the top of her she's in that river valley. She hikes up to on top of one of the ridges. She sees a water buck. A water buck, though, is a 60-pound animal, and we got certain restrictions in the area, and Kelsey's only allowed to take 50-pound animals because she's got a 50-pound bow. She hears some soft barking, then sees a warthog. Friends, she sneaks up on the warthog. These warthogs have sharp tusks, but bad eyesight. She's shaking, friends. She's pursuing this warthog and her legs are shaking. She draws her bow and bam, shoots, hits him. It doesn't put him down though, so she stalks him, puts another arrow right through him, and this is Kelsey's first kill ever on a 50-pound recurve bow. And we see Kelsey tried to, these warthogs can get up to 300 pounds, friends. She tries to put it in a pack. She lays down on the ground, gets on her back, tries to get the warthog on her back. There is no way Kelsey is lifting this warthog, so she has to quarter it out there. She guts it, quarters it out, and by about 2:30 in the afternoon, after shooting it around 10:30, she gets that warthog back in camp, friends. Good on Kelsey, friends. She's got that warthog back in camp, and she's got flies and ants all over that thing. It's about 4 o'clock in the early evening now. It took her all day to kill, clean, and cut that thing up. She made a nice smoker though. We see her make a nice tripod smoker, and she smokes a bunch of that meat, friends, and we see her laying in her camp, and she says, "Look at me, Kelsey, I'm just lounging and eating warthog out here in South Africa." Good on her, man. 507, she's lounging and eating warthog, loving life, and it's a super big time morale boost because guess what? She brought some salt. Woo, friends, she brings some salt. She salts up that warthog, and it's a big old morale boost for Kelsey. Good on her, friends. All right, friends, day 3 now, 9:23 in the morning. Oh man, we get our first casualty. Show goes back over to that slender gentleman, Jeet. That's that 33-year-old from New Zealand. Says he's going to get, we see him waking up, says he's going to get some fish. South Africa has about 20 species of crabs, and his plan is to find some crabs for bait and go fishing. While he's out there looking for crabs, friends, ooh-wee, he has to pass gas or fart, friends, and he has a blowout on his backside. Ooh-wee, friends, the diarrhea comes first before the dry heaves. And then we see him getting the dry heaves. Oh my goodness. Back to camp for him. About 11:42 that night, he wakes up with the chills and the body aches. Tries sipping some water. He's gonna try to make it through the night, see how he feels in the morning. And friends, on day 4, 7:33 in the morning, Jeet got the dry heaves and he taps out, friends. I don't think that slender gentleman would have had much of a chance out there. He lasts 4 days and we get our first tap out. We're down to 9 contestants now. We still have 2 ladies. The ladies are looking very strong. All right, friends, that wraps up my show notes for episode 1 of season 12 of Alone. They're out there in the Great Karoo Desert of South Africa, and I want to thank you for stopping by the channel. Friends, before you leave, please consider subscribing. Hit the bell icon in the drop-down menu. Do select all, friends. I'm going to be bringing the show notes for every episode of season 12 of Alone. Super excited. I love this show, friends. It's one of the only really shows that I watch. It's on the History Channel. You can check it out on Thursdays. But I want to thank you for everything you do for the channel. All your views, all your likes, all your shares. Most importantly, all your comments, friends. Before you leave me a comment. Let me know who you think's going to win this thing. I think the women are looking strong. All right. Please, please don't depart from the faith. And if you haven't already, give your life to Christ, friends. Do it today. Don't wait. And as always, God is good. God is great. I see y'all on the next video. Already got a date.